Okay, good evening. My name is Alejandra Neyra, and as Tania said, I'm a data analyst BI manager at CIS. And CIS is a membership organization. So we have over 1,300 schools and universities around the world. And we are mostly known for the accreditation process, and that is to say a quality stamp for high quality education. We collect a lot of data from the schools and universities through the accreditation cycle, but we also collect a lot of data on a yearly basis, and that data lives in Salesforce. So to give you an idea of how this works, we have a community portal. The schools and universities enter information in community. The information is stored in Salesforce. We use reports and dashboards, but when we need a higher level of data analysis or when we need a higher level of user interactivity, then we rely on Power BI. And we share back these reports with our members in the community portal. And my goal for today is to show you how we're using Salesforce and Power BI to analyze data so that CIS and our members can make data-informed decisions. And to do this, I'm going to show you briefly Power BI. I'm going to talk about connectivity, data profiling, formatting, AI, and how we share the data. And I am going to end with features that we really like and with features that we don't like so much. And yeah, so if you have not heard of Power BI is a business analytics service by Microsoft. And if you have not seen Power BI before, the next 15 minutes may be a bit confusing. So I thought maybe I start by showing you the platform and showing you some of the functionalities that are available. And having said that, I don't work for Microsoft. So if you have questions about licenses or enterprises plans, my suggestion is that you go to powerbi.com. In the beginning, I want to share how you can transform information in Power BI. And as I said, I want to show you some of the basic functionalities that are available. And I am going to switch to Power BI online. And can you see it? Yeah? Okay. So, so the first image that okay, so this table is showing us what is the stock price from Salesforce since 2019. I downloaded the data, and with that data, I created this graph. And here we can see what is the stock price variability since September 2019. And as many of you may know, there was a peak on the price in September. So if I want to find out what was that price, I can go over and I can see, okay, on September 2nd, the stock opened with $283, closed with $276, and the highest point was $284. If, let's say, I am not interested in 1 year, but I only want to see the last 5 or 6 months, I can adjust this slicer, and the graph will update automatically and show me what is the trend. Functionalities like this are very easy to build. Here, this is a tooltip, and I added it in the next page so you can see where is the data coming from. And it updates as I hover over the graph. Okay, recently there has been a lot of conversations around diversity. So I was curious to see, okay, how diversity looks in Salesforce, and I found this table in their website, and this is showing me ethnicities, gender, and positions categories. in Salesforce, and I believe it's only US. So with this data, I created, so with this data, you can easily create pie charts. So I'm from Guatemala, so let's say I really want to know how many Hispanic people are working in Salesforce. And I can easily see, okay, we have 680 females compared to over 1,000 men, and this represents 37%. Let's say that I am not so interested in the percentage, but that I want to see the actual numbers. So I can easily just click here, all the graphs updates, and I can see what are the numbers. As you saw in the table, we have the categories. So there are filtering options, and I can say, okay, these are all the positions, but now I want to know how many Hispanics are in executive positions. So if I use this filter, I can see, okay, we have five females and 13 males. And same thing with the bar graph. You can also update this graph to show you just numbers. And another example, to use some maps. As many of you know, California is suffering with a lot of fires. So let's say, okay, I want to know how many fires have taken place in September. Their website has this information, so I downloaded this table, and I want to create the map in Power BI with you so you can see how easy it is. So I'm going to switch to the desktop version, and I already have the data uploaded, and we hope it's gonna work. Okay, so I have here, so this will be my fields and my data set. So I have the latitude, I drag the latitude, I drag the longitude, and that will show me 1 point. As I am interested to know which fire is happening on which day, I group the data by a start date, and you can see where are these taking place. I can animate this information. So I want the fires to show up by date, and I can tell, okay, how often do I want this to happen? So here you can see fires based on the date. And yeah, it was really a couple of drags and drops. If I want to know the total of land that has been burned, then we're talking about 421 acres. So I'll go back. Okay. All right, so now that you have an idea of what you can do, to share a bit of background, we have been using Power BI now for 5 years. And before we connected to Dynamic CRM, in 2017, we migrated to Salesforce, and we migrated 9 years of data into Salesforce. And the question that kept coming was, how are we going to connect Salesforce with Power BI? And we were very concerned because we rely heavily on Power BI. But I cannot emphasize how easy it is. You just go to get data. You can connect to either objects or reports. If you connect to objects, depending on the number of objects and the volume that you have in each object, it may take a couple of minutes. If you connect to reports, it's a bit faster, it's more straightforward, and you have fewer fields than, of course, than in your object. The second question that we had was, and this is mostly because we have heard how strong Salesforce reports were, how strong their dashboards were. So the question was, are we going to use Power BI now that we have Salesforce reporting capabilities? And the answer is yes. Reports and dashboards are good, but if you need a second layer of analysis, if you need a second layer of interaction, we found that they were not enough. So to give you an example of how we are connecting Salesforce to Power BI, we work with over 500 universities, and we collect data every year on financial aid. So every year they tell us we offer this amount of financial aid to international students. And we store this data in a custom object called academic year figures. And these are some of the fields that they input. So we have tuition fees, and on the other column we have awards. And yes, we use reports. We can easily create a report with tuition fees and awards. But what we did in Power BI was, okay, we want to give our users the ability to search. So let's say I'm a counselor in a school, and I have a student that wants to study in the United States, and they can only pay 30,000 euros. I want them to be able to do this. So in this image, you can see the filters have been applied. I have a student that wants to go to the US, that needs financial aid, and that can pay a maximum of $30,000. And the table will update to show you that information that is coming from Salesforce. We have set up, we set up an update once a day. We think that's enough for our purposes, but you can set up automatic refresh as often as you want. As I said, Power BI allows you to connect to Salesforce, but you also have direct connectors to over maybe 100 other softwares. And for those softwares that there is no direct connector, you can always use a REST API. So in our case, it was with Survey Gizmo. We do maybe over 200 surveys per year. And same as with Salesforce, the reports are solid, but sometimes you also need that extra layer of analysis. So instead of downloading data in Excel, uploading it in Power BI, we connected to Survey Gizmo via a REST API. And this is how it looks. So in the first column, we have all the surveys identified by an ID. We can also search by survey ID. And once you click there, it gives you all the questions that were displayed that are displayed in that survey. Once you have data in Power BI, there's a functionality that allows you to understand the data that you have, the distribution that you have. And this is very helpful, especially if you are not too familiar with your data set. So to give you an example, if I know this information in advance and I know that from all my contacts, only 13% of them have entered a middle name, maybe I don't want to include that. And since the beginning, I know I'm not going to add middle name. We also relied on this very heavily for the data migration and to do quick validations. Because, for example, person type was very important for us. So I could easily see, okay, we have 7 person types in Dynamics. And then once we had the data in Salesforce, was a quick spot check. We have 7 person types in Salesforce. So we could assume that things went right. Once you have the data, once you understand the data, the formatting capabilities, I think, are very strong. I really like, for example, that you can upload your branding colors. So all the graphs that you create already have the colors of your organizations, and this can save a lot of time. There is, yeah, as I said, there is a lot of things you can do. I didn't do this, but I just want to show you some example of the great reports that are out there and that you can take as inspiration. if there are fans of XQCD, they're also a template so you can create and use their graphs. So I really like this. Talking a bit about AI and functionalities that you can use. We use text analytics from Azure, and Azure is a cloud service created by Microsoft. And what we use the most is sentiment analysis. We, as I said, we do a lot of surveys, and sometimes maybe you have over 1,000 responses, open text. And we want to analyze, okay, what are the most positive and the most negative? And we want to dig deeper into that. But when you have so much text, that can be very difficult. So with Power BI, if you have an ID and you have your text, you need a little bit of code that you can copy paste from Azure. And this is the result. And this is a very basic example. But here you can see I have two sentences. I love data, I hate data. I have the sentiment score. The sentiment score will go from 0 to 1. And I love data is getting a 0.8. I hate data is getting a 0.2. So if you group those comments, it can be a good first pass, depending on the analysis that you need. And it is not 100% accurate all the time. But as I said, it can be a good starting point if you want to do text analysis. As for how we share Power BI, the desktop version, I don't know if I mentioned it, is free. You can download it. You can upload Excel data. You can start creating very fun visualizations in about a week. And this allows you to download the data in PDF files. The online version allows you to download data in PowerPoint. Of course, we have Power BI Online that allows you to share links, share reports with links. We are also uploading our information in community, and that's their image that you see, the financial aid dashboard is available. And we have not done this, but I have read several blogs that you can embed Power BI in Salesforce. So if somebody has done this, maybe you can also share in the Q&A. I'm curious myself how it works. So what we like, the desktop version, as I said, is free. It's very easy to use. We have interns every 2 months, and within a week, they're creating great reports. So I will highly recommend you to give it a try. They do monthly updates. So every month there's something new in regards to analytics, visualizations, templates, connectivity. So it's very exciting to keep up and see, okay, what are they releasing this month? They have a very active community all over the world. And this is really just a few persons. But Eric, for example, he's based in Denmark. And in a conference, he helped me build that integration between Survey Gizmo and Power BI. Guy in a Cube, they're based in the US. They have some great educational and like entertaining videos where you can learn. Risa Rad is a data modeling expert. And Prati, she's based in the UK, and she has a very nice blog in regards to visualizations and how you can take your reports to the next level with designs, designs and layouts. What we don't like, once you pass the Excel file, if you're building the connection between Salesforce and Power BI, most likely you're going to need DAX. And there is a learning curve for DAX. To build the integrations between other softwares and Salesforce, you're going to need the language M. So there is also another learning curve for that. If you know SQL, it's easier. You can use R in Power BI, and you can also use Python to do like the higher level of statistical analysis. Power BI, when you pull your objects, it will recognize the relationship between objects, or it would recognize the relationship among objects. But once in a while, something like this will happen. And this is not a one-to-one, this is a many-to-many. And to fix this can take some time. This is 2 objects. And if I have 5 objects with 25 fake relationships, it's very time consuming. The better your model is built, the easier it's going to be to work in Power BI. So the more objects with strange relationships, the harder it's going to be for your analysts to recreate this in Power BI, because that's what we do. Something else is we work with API names. So the clearer your API names, again, the easier it's going to be to build reports. These are real API names that we have. And if I want to, for example, I need the total number of nationalities of my faculty, and I have to work with this, now I know. But in the beginning, it was quite time consuming to be checking, okay, I need the first field. And the last one, everybody loves maps. I think maps are a great way to show information, but I think 9 out of 10 times you end with a dot in the middle of the ocean or in a different country. Here I have 12 dots, so that's very easy to identify, but when you have over 1,000, that can also turn a bit time consuming. So, yeah, that's what I have for you today. I am happy to answer some questions.
Of course, there are some questions. After the presentation like that, we always have questions. So one question.
Sharing my screen.
We can see questions. So yeah, you can stay or whatever as you prefer. Yeah. So one question was for prices, but I'm presuming that it's you mentioned that online version is free, right?
The online version is free. It's more affordable than Tableau and Einstein, and that's one of the reasons why we chose it. Yes.
Okay, there is a question. Another question: is there public dashboard space in Power BI world like Tableau one? Ooh, the comparison of 2-hour speakers and products.
If I understand correctly, you can share your information publicly. That means that your data is public. But you can also, if you have the right license, you can share links only with certain members, and this information won't be public for everyone.
Sergey, this answer is okay for you? It was your questions, and I'm not the specialist.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Cool. Then there was a quick question: what map visualization you used from Marketplace?
They have over 12 visualizations now. I think we use the basic one quite often, and heat maps. Heat maps also are we use heavily, and for those that are not, just let me put the screen again. Let's see. Yeah, so these are the basic visualizations. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, these are the basic of visualizations, and then you can go to Marketplace and there are more options. But as I said, even this map we use very often, because sometimes, sometimes it answers the question that you're trying to answer. So there's no need for anything else. But here you can see maps and the availability that they have right now.
Okay, cool. And there is a question, I will read it and then we'll see if we can answer it, understand the question. Salesforce has limitation on data storage capacity. How do you manage that? Example, regular exports to AWS. Panos, jump in if I'm reading incorrectly.
Yeah, because you mentioned you're storing like data of 9 years, and like you have 11,000 organizations and all this. So this sounds a lot of data to me, and Salesforce is not really designed to store data, right? So I was wondering, how do you do that?
Yeah, we migrated this since the beginning. So yeah, I probably can ask somebody else for this, how they do this, but yeah.
I have an answer because
Sergey will know.
yeah, I am involved for one client,
Yeah.
and what they do, they they replicate all Salesforce data in Microsoft SQL database. So they use AppExchange app to do heavy lifting of data to Microsoft SQL Server, and then it's super easy to plug Power BI. Of course, it's not real time, but this is how you can replicate all data to Microsoft tooling. And why it's interesting, because Power BI, yeah, it's Microsoft stack and it's connected directly, and then you have full power of using yeah, massive data. And in my case, it was also 8 years of data. But the same you can do probably also with Amazon or any other cloud storage. Because you of course you need to move data from Salesforce if you want to do reporting on 10 years of data.
Probably for Alejandra, they have a different architecture, right? Because they connect to Salesforce.
Yeah, they use API. Yes, REST API. Ale, what are you using?
There is a direct connector.
Yeah, I think that connector
From
is an
Power
API.
BI to Salesforce. Yeah.
Did you see any limitation for this connector? How much you can pull data or how often?
No, we heard of a lot of limitations, but we didn't find any. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to continue the question if anyone work out how to embed Power BI in Salesforce. Because in my company it's needed too. It's not for private purposes. However, please raise a hand if you have. Anyone did something like that, or that's still? If not, I will try and I will let you know how it works. But yeah, that will be in some time.
So next time, when you do it, yes.
Okay. Any other last minute questions? Anything? Cool. Thank you so much, Alejandra.